For thousands of years, the moon has hung in our night sky, a silent companion wrapped in mystery. Ancient civilizations worshipped it as a deity, poets have woven it into their verses, and scientists have devoted lifetimes to unlocking its secrets. Yet, even after centuries of study, our closest celestial neighbor remains full of unanswered questions. Tonight, we're not just looking at the moon, we're peeling back the layers of its strangest enigmas. Because hidden among its craters and plains are structures, lights, and formations that shouldn't be there, glowing orbs that dance across the surface. Towering spires that defy geology, even what appear to be artificial ruins, silently challenging everything we think we know. These aren't just oddities, they're lunar anomalies, and they've sparked debates between astronomers, conspiracy theorists, and even governments. Some can be dismissed as tricks of light or camera artifacts, others not so easily explained. What if the moon isn't just a dead rock orbiting Earth? What if it holds clues to something far more extraordinary? Over the decades, astronauts, satellites, and amateur observers have captured glimpses of these mysteries, but the full picture remains frustratingly out of reach. That's why we're diving deep into 25 of the most baffling lunar anomalies ever recorded, each one more perplexing than the last. From the infamous shard photographed by Apollo missions to the unsettling flashes of light witnessed by astronomers for centuries, we'll explore the evidence, the theories, and the lingering questions that keep scientists up at night. Some of these anomalies might have natural explanations, others, they'll make you question whether we've ever truly been alone in this solar system. So buckle up, because by the time we're done, you'll never look at the moon the same way again. The truth is up there, waiting. All we have to do is look closer. The first anomaly on our list is one of the most visually striking and controversial structures ever photographed on the lunar surface. Known simply as the shard, this bizarre formation was captured by Apollo mission cameras, jutting out of the moon's barren landscape like a skyscraper carved from obsidian. Estimates suggest it towers nearly 1.5 miles high, dwarfing even Earth's tallest man-made structures. But what makes it truly unsettling isn't just its size, it's the unnatural precision of its shape. Unlike the weathered, rounded peaks we'd expect from natural lunar geology, the shard appears angular, almost architectural, with edges so sharp they seem deliberately crafted. Leading researchers like Richard Hoagland have pointed out how its geometric perfection mirrors terrestrial engineering principles. The angles between its facets don't resemble the chaotic fractures of volcanic rock or meteor impacts. Instead, they echo the deliberate symmetry found in modern construction. Even more perplexing, shadows cast across its surface suggest the presence of internal hollows, what some speculate could be windows or structural cavities. Mainstream science often dismisses it as an unusual basaltic formation or a trick of light, but photographs taken from multiple angles during different lunar missions continue to fuel debate. Then there's the location. The shard doesn't stand isolated in some unexplored crater. It's positioned conspicuously near known landing sites, almost as if placed there intentionally. Ancient astronaut theorists argue this could be remnants of a long-abandoned lunar outpost, while skeptics counter that pareidolia, our brain's tendency to see familiar patterns, is at work. But when you line up the photographic evidence, witness testimonies from astronauts who privately reported structures, and the sheer mathematical improbability of such a formation occurring naturally, the questions only multiply. Could the shard be the cosmos' most monumental coincidence, or something far more deliberate? Either way, it stands as a silent sentinel, challenging our assumptions about what the moon really is. If the shard left you questioning lunar geology, wait until you hear about its towering neighbor, an even more mind-bending structure dubbed the Tower. This 7-mile-high monolith was first spotted in lunar orbiter images, casting a razor-thin shadow across the moon's surface. The proportions alone defy logic. A structure so impossibly slender and tall, it would make Earth skyscrapers look like toy blocks. Independent analysts studying the shadows estimate its width is a mere fraction of its height, creating a profile unlike any natural rock formation in our solar system. What's even stranger, the angles. Enhanced images reveal geometric precision edges that align too perfectly, too symmetrically, to be the result of random erosion or meteor strikes. NASA official explanation calls it a trick of light, a play of shadows on rugged terrain. But that doesn't account for why this anomaly appears in multiple orbiter photos, taken under different lighting conditions with the same unnerving proportions. Researchers like Mark Carlotto, who have analyzed the images pixel by pixel, argue the structure's alignment and uniformity suggest something far more deliberate. Then there's the location perched near the Euclid crater, a region already steeped in mystery. The crater itself is a near-perfect triangle, an oddity among the Moon's typically circular impact sites. Some theorists propose the tower and the crater's unnatural shape might be connected, part of an ancient, unknown lunar architecture. Others speculate it could be a marker, a deliberate signpost left by intelligent beings, either human ancestors or visitors from beyond our world. Even if we dismiss the wilder theories, one question lingers. How does a natural formation maintain such a precarious, needle-like structure for millions of years without collapsing under the Moon's weak gravity? The tower doesn't just challenge our understanding of the Moon, it dares us to rethink what's possible. Whether it's a geological freak or something far more profound, its presence whispers that there's still so much we don't know about our closest cosmic neighbor. And if structures like this exist in plain sight, what else might be hidden in the shadows, moving from towering spires to uncannily precise geometry? The next anomalies on our list push the boundaries of coincidence even further. Near the Tycho crater, one of the Moon's most prominent features, two structures stand out not for their size but for their impossible perfection: the cube and the pyramid. The cube, photographed by lunar orbiters, appears as a stark rectangular object sitting on the barren surface, its edges so unnaturally straight they look like they were cut with a laser. Nearby, the pyramid rises from Tycho's rim, a tetrahedral structure with slopes so symmetrical they rival the Great Pyramid of Giza. What makes these formations so unsettling is the sheer mathematical precision they exhibit. Natural geology doesn't produce right angles or flawless geometric shapes. Erosion, impacts, and volcanic activity create chaos, not order. Yet here, within miles of each other, we have two structures that defy that rule. The cube's dimensions, analyzed by researchers, show proportions eerily close to 1 to 1 to 1. A perfect cube, something almost unheard of in nature. Meanwhile, the pyramid's faces align with near-identical slopes, each side mirroring the others with unsettling uniformity. Their proximity raises even bigger questions. Could these structures be related? Ancient astronaut theorists suggest they might be part of a larger, buried complex, remnants of some long-forgotten lunar civilization. Mainstream scientists argue they're nothing more than weathered rock formations, their shapes exaggerated by shadows and low-resolution imagery. But when you consider that Tycho crater itself is one of the Moon's youngest major impacts, estimated to be just over 100 million years old, the timeline gets even stranger. If these structures are artificial, who or what could have built them so recently in geological terms? Some researchers point to the cube's reflective properties, noting that certain angles show hints of metallic sheen, unlike the dull regolith around it. Others highlight the pyramid's alignment with lunar sunrise, suggesting it might have functioned as some kind of marker or beacon. Even if we dismiss the wildest theories, one thing is undeniable: their presence in the same region, both displaying near impossible geometry, stretches the limits of natural explanation. Whether they're cosmic coincidences or something more, the cube and pyramid force us to confront just how little we truly understand about the Moon's hidden history. Now we come to one of the most mystifying clusters of structures ever photographed on the Moon, the Blair Cuspids. Standing in eerie formation near the crater rim of Sinus Medii, these 12-foot-tall, needle-like spires were first captured by Lunar Orbiter 2 in 1966. At first glance, they resemble a jagged outcrop of volcanic rock, but closer inspection reveals details that defy conventional explanations. The cuspids don't just rise randomly from the surface, they're positioned in precise geometric arrangements, some evenly spaced in straight lines, others forming near-perfect right angles. Then there's the matter of their reflectivity. Unlike the dull, weathered basalt that covers most of the lunar surface, the cuspids appear unnaturally bright in certain images, almost as if they're made of polished metal. Dr. Bruce Cornett, a geologist who analyzed the photographs, noted their uniformity is unlike any known volcanic formations. Natural spires formed by cooling lava or erosion tend to be irregular with varying thicknesses and tilts. But the Blair Cuspids, their near-identical shapes and alignment suggest something far more deliberate, almost as if they were placed there. Adding to the mystery, the area around them is relatively flat, devoid of the kind of geological activity that would typically produce such towering formations. If they were remnants of ancient volcanic vents, why aren't there similar structures nearby? And why do they cast such sharp, defined shadows, hinting at a density and structure unlike porous lunar rock? Some researchers speculate they could be the remnants of some long-abandoned installation, while others propose they might serve a navigational purpose, acting as markers for something buried beneath the surface. The official NASA report at the time dismissed them as unusual boulders, but even that explanation leaves gaps. Boulders don't typically stand upright in neat clusters, and they certainly don't reflect light like polished metal. To this day, no follow-up missions have taken a closer look, leaving the Blair Cuspids frozen in time, silent, shimmering, and daring us to question whether the Moon's surface is really as barren as we've been led to believe. The so-called Lunar Bridge remains one of the most hotly debated anomalies in lunar history, not just because of what it appeared to be, but because of how mysteriously it vanished. First spotted by journalist and amateur astronomer John O'Neill in 1953, this jaw-dropping structure stretched an estimated 12 miles across the Mare Crisium, its smooth, arching form suspended like a colossal viaduct over the Moon's desolate plains. O'Neill, a respected science editor for the New York Herald Tribune, didn't just glimpse it through his telescope, he documented it meticulously, even convincing professional astronomers to verify his observations. At the time, the scientific community was stunned. A natural formation of that scale and symmetry seemed impossible, yet there it was, defying every known principle of lunar geology. The bridge's geometry is what set off alarm bells. Unlike the fractured, uneven remnants of lava tubes found elsewhere on the Moon, this structure had a consistent curvature, its underside appearing smooth and deliberate, almost as if engineered to bear weight. Some researchers speculated it could be the remnants of an ancient volcanic tube, collapsed in just the right way to create an illusion of design. But lava tubes typically leave chaotic, broken terrain, not a single, unbroken span stretching mile after mile with no visible supports. Others, like astronomer H.P. Wilkins, argued the precision was too uncanny, pointing out that no known natural process could produce such a perfect arch over such an enormous distance. Then came the real twist. By the late 1960s, as NASA lunar orbiters began mapping the Moon in detail, the bridge was gone. No debris, no remnants, just empty space where it once stood. Some claimed it had been a trick of light, an optical illusion created by shadows playing across the cratered surface. But that doesn't explain why multiple independent observers, including seasoned astronomers, confirmed O'Neill's discovery years before it disappeared. Even more puzzling, NASA has never officially addressed the anomaly, leaving a vacuum of silence that conspiracy theorists and researchers alike have filled with wild speculation. Could it have been some form of natural erosion that erased the bridge between observations? Unlikely geological processes on the Moon move at a glacial pace. Or was it something else entirely, a structure that wasn't meant to be seen, or worse, wasn't meant to last? The lunar bridge forces us to confront an unsettling possibility, that the Moon's surface might not be as static as we believe. Whether it was a fleeting cosmic mirage or something far more deliberate, its brief appearance and abrupt disappearance remind us just how many secrets our closest neighbor still keeps. Nestled within the Marius Hills, a region already famous for its labyrinth of volcanic tubes, sits one of the Moon's most geometrically perplexing structures, the lunar dome. Stretching nearly 2 miles across with a surface so smooth it looks polished, this massive formation defies every conventional explanation for lunar geology. Unlike the rough, pockmarked terrain around it, the dome rises with near-perfect curvature, its edges blending seamlessly into the landscape as if molded rather than formed by natural forces. What makes it even stranger are the readings we've gotten from thermal imaging. Most volcanic domes, even on Earth, show predictable heat signatures: cooler at the peaks, warmer at the base where magma once flowed. But the lunar dome does the opposite. Infrared scans reveal bizarre hotspots scattered across its surface, pulsing erratically as if drawing energy from somewhere beneath the Moon's crust. These emissions don't match any known volcanic activity, past or present, leading some researchers to speculate it might not be a natural formation at all. Dr. Farouk Elbaz, a geologist who studied the region, once called it an anomaly among anomalies, pointing out that its symmetry is unlike any volcanic residue ever documented. The dome's slope is too uniform, its surface too devoid of the cracks and fissures that should come with cooling lava. Even more intriguing, its reflective properties. In certain orbital images, sections of the dome appear almost translucent, as if made from some crystalline or composite material. This has fueled wilder theories that it could be a camouflaged structure shielded by advanced materials to blend into the lunar surface, or even some kind of energy harvester left behind by an unknown civilization. Then there's the location's odd history. During the Apollo missions, astronauts orbiting the Moon reported unexplained flashes of light near Marius Hills, some lasting several seconds, far too long to be meteor impacts. Decades later, Japan's Selene spacecraft detected magnetic anomalies in the same area, with fluctuations that shouldn't exist on an airless, geologically dormant world. Could the dome be generating these disturbances, or is it merely sitting atop something far larger and more complex beneath the surface? Mainstream science has yet to offer a definitive answer, often chalking it up to an extinct volcano with unique properties. But when you stack the thermal oddities, the structural perfection, and the decades of unexplained activity around it, the lunar dome stops being just a geological curiosity. It becomes a riddle wrapped in a mystery, silently challenging us to reconsider what might really lie beneath the Moon's dusty veneer. Among the countless craters and ridges of the Moon's surface, one structure stands out not for its size but for its chilling familiarity. A stark, cross-shaped formation near the crater Paracelsus C, first spotted in Apollo 16 images. At first glance, it looks like something ripped from a medieval cathedral, two intersecting beams forming near-perfect right angles, stretching hundreds of feet across the lunar dust. The precision is what's unsettling. Natural rock formations don't behave this way. They don't fracture into perfect 90-degree intersections or maintain such clean, straight lines over such distances. Skeptics argue it's a textbook case of pareidolia, our brain's tendency to impose meaningful shapes on random patterns. After all, we've all seen faces in clouds or animals in rock formations. But the cross doesn't just suggest symmetry, it screams it. Photogrammetric analyses reveal angles so exact they fall within fractions of a degree of true perpendicularity, a statistical anomaly in a landscape shaped by chaotic meteor strikes and volcanic upheaval. Even more perplexing, the surrounding terrain shows no evidence of the kind of tectonic shifts or lava flows that could produce such a freakish alignment. Then there's the location. Paracelsus C sits in the Moon's southern highlands, a region packed with anomalies from the aforementioned Blair cuspids to strange, reflective patches that still lack explanation. Some researchers, like Dr. Samuel Whitcomb, have pointed out that the cross aligns with several other geometric formations in the area, almost as if part of a larger, hidden pattern. Ancient astronaut theorists, meanwhile, latch onto its eerie resemblance to terrestrial religious symbols, suggesting it could be a marker, intentional or not, left by some long-lost lunar civilization. Others propose a more unsettling idea that it's not ancient at all, but something far more recent. NASA official stance, a coincidental arrangement of collapsed crater walls. But that explanation glosses over the sheer improbability of 4 separate ridges collapsing inward at mathematically precise angles without a single deviation. Even if we dismiss the wilder theories, one question lingers. In a universe governed by entropy and randomness, how does something so meticulously geometric just happen? The cross forces us to confront whether we're seeing a cosmic fluke or a signpost from something or someone beyond our understanding, and if it is a message, what exactly is it trying to say? From the eerie geometric perfection of the cross, we move to an entirely different kind of lunar mystery, one that paints the Moon's surface in swirling, almost artistic patterns. These are the infamous lunar swirls, and none is more striking than Rayner Gamma. Stretching over 40 miles across the ocean of storms, this dazzling formation looks like a colossal fingerprint pressed into the dust, its bright, looping tendrils standing out starkly against the dark lunar regolith. But what makes these swirls truly baffling isn't just their beauty. It's the fact that they defy every conventional explanation for how the Moon's surface should behave. First, there's their uncanny brightness. Most of the Moon's surface darkens over time, bombarded by solar radiation in a process called space weathering. Yet these swirls remain brilliantly reflective, as if something or someone is shielding them from the effects of cosmic exposure. Then there's the magnetism. Rayner Gamma sits atop one of the Moon's most powerful magnetic anomalies, a localized field strong enough to deflect solar wind particles. Natural magnetic fields on the Moon are rare and weak, so how did this one become so intense? The scientific mainstream offers a tantalizing, if speculative, explanation: comet impacts. Some researchers suggest that when a comet grazes the Moon, its vaporized material, rich in iron and other conductive elements, could interact with the solar wind to create these swirling magnetic imprints. It's a clever theory, except for one problem. The swirls' patterns are too intricate, too deliberate looking, to match the chaotic aftermath of a high-speed impact. Some sections loop in perfect spirals, others branch like lightning bolts frozen in time. Nature rarely produces such artistry by accident. This is where the theories take a wilder turn. UFO researchers have long pointed to the swirls as potential evidence of extraterrestrial activity, suggesting they could be energy fields, landing markers, or even remnants of some vast buried machinery. The pattern's resemblance to crop circles, another phenomenon steeped in controversy, only fuels the speculation. Even more intriguing, several swirls, including Rayner Gamma, align eerily with other lunar anomalies we've discussed, as if part of a hidden network. Yet the most unsettling detail might be their persistence. Unlike the lunar bridge, which vanished without a trace, or the Blair cuspids, which stand isolated, the swirls remain unchanged across decades of observation. Whatever created them isn't just a fleeting anomaly. It's etched into the Moon's very fabric, a silent enigma that refuses to fade. Whether they're cosmic graffiti, the scars of ancient cataclysms, or something far more intentional, the swirls remind us that the moon's mysteries aren't just in its structures, they're woven into its very dust. Amid the vast, dusty plains of Mare Tranquillitatis, the same region where humanity first set foot on the moon, sits an anomaly so out of place, it looks like a shard of glass thrust into the lunar surface. Standing roughly 100 feet tall, the lunar spire is impossibly slender, its needle-like form casting a shadow so long and sharp, it seems almost painted onto the terrain by some celestial artist. But what truly sets this structure apart isn't just its height. It's the way it shines. High-resolution images from NASA, a lunar reconnaissance orbiter, reveal a surface so reflective, it glints like a beacon when sunlight strikes at the right angle, a phenomenon never observed in natural lunar rock. Independent researchers analyzing the LRO data have noted something even stranger. The spire's reflectivity patterns don't match any known mineral or volcanic glass found on the moon. Instead, the light bouncing off its surface behaves more like a polished metal or engineered composite, scattering brightness in precise directional bursts. Some have speculated it could function as a kind of passive signaling device, catching sunlight at specific lunar angles to create flashes visible from orbit or even Earth. Ancient astronaut theorists, meanwhile, suggest it might be the remnant of some long-abandoned lunar navigation system, a waypoint for travelers we can't even begin to imagine. Then there's the question of its resilience. The moon's surface is constantly bombarded by micrometeorites, which over millions of years should have pitted and eroded any natural formation into a rough, dull shadow of itself. Yet the spire's surface remains eerily smooth, as if shielded from the relentless cosmic sandblasting. Dr. Mark Robinson, principal investigator for the LRO camera team, has cautiously called it one of the most unusual features we've imaged, stopping short of endorsing any wild theories but admitting its properties defy easy classification. The location only deepens the intrigue. Mare Tranquillitatis is already legendary as the Apollo 11 landing site, a place etched into human history. Could it be coincidence that such an anomaly lies relatively nearby? Or does its placement hint at something more deliberate, a silent sentinel watching over our first steps, waiting for us to notice its unnatural glow? Whether it's a geological oddity or something far more profound, the lunar spire stands as a glittering enigma, a needle in the cosmic haystack that refuses to be ignored. And every time the sun strikes its surface just right, it winks back at us as if sharing a secret we've yet to decipher. Deep in the grainy black and white photos from Apollo 15, a series of structures appears to rise from the lunar surface not as isolated anomalies but as something far more provocative. Stretching across the plains of Sinus Medii, these formations resemble the skeletal outlines of a sprawling metropolis, with intersecting lines forming what look like grid-patterned streets and clustered, box-like shapes reminiscent of buildings. At first glance, it's easy to dismiss them as artifacts of low-resolution photography, pixelation errors, or the result of sunlight glancing off irregular terrain. But when you zoom in, the patterns persist. Rows of geometric shadows align in unnervingly straight sequences, some intersecting at precise 90-degree angles, as if mapped by an unseen urban planner. NASA official stance is firm. These are nothing more than optical illusions, the result of image compression and the human brain's knack for imposing order on chaos. Skeptics point to similar grids found in satellite images of Earth's deserts, where wind and erosion occasionally sculpt natural formations that mimic human-made structures. Yet the lunar city hypothesis gains traction when you examine the context. These buildings, if that's what they are, cluster in Sinus Medii, a region already packed with anomalies like the Blair cuspids and magnetic disturbances. Could it be coincidence that so many oddities converge in one area? Independent researchers have taken the analysis further. Using contrast enhancement and edge detection software, some claim to have identified three-dimensional depth in the formations, suggesting the shadows aren't just flat markings but actual raised structures. Others highlight the sheer scale. The largest blocks span nearly half a mile, dwarfing even Earth's megacities. Then there's the placement. These grids don't sprawl randomly. They're concentrated in zones with unusually high albedo, reflecting sunlight as if made of smoother, more polished material than the surrounding regolith. Mainstream science counters with a compelling alternative: ancient lava channels. The Moon's volcanic past left behind countless fissures and collapsed tubes, which could, under the right lighting, create the illusion of geometric order. But lava channels typically meander like rivers, not snap into rigid right angles. And why would they cluster in such distinct, dense formations, unlike anything seen in other volcanic regions? The debate rages on, with neither side able to deliver a knockout blow. Perhaps the most intriguing detail isn't in the images themselves, but in the reactions they've provoked. Apollo 15 astronauts never mentioned seeing a city, of course, but decades later, declassified documents revealed that several mission specialists privately flagged the area as anomalous long before the public noticed. Whether it's a trick of light, a geological oddity, or something far more profound, the Sinus Medii grids force us to confront an unsettling question. If we found ruins on the Moon, would we even recognize them? Or would our own assumptions keep them hidden in plain sight? Amid the desolate expanse of Lobachevsky crater, something gleams, an angular, metallic structure caught on film by Apollo 12's cameras during its lunar swing-by. Dubbed the shining structure, this anomaly burned brightly against the crater's shadowed floor, reflecting sunlight with an intensity that made it look almost like a polished beacon. At roughly the size of a small house, it stood out not just for its glow, but for its bizarre geometry, sharp edges and flat planes that seemed machined rather than eroded. Then, just as suddenly as it appeared, it vanished. Later orbital passes showed nothing but empty terrain where the structure had been, as if it had never existed at all. NASA official explanation pointed to an unusual mineral deposit, perhaps a vein of iron-rich material catching the light just right. But veteran lunar photographers quickly countered that argument. Metallic ores on the Moon don't reflect light with such surgical precision, nor do they disappear without a trace. Independent analysts studying the footage noted something even stranger. The way the light played across its surface suggested movement, as if the object were subtly shifting position between frames. This wasn't just a static reflection, it behaved almost like a mirror being tilted deliberately. Theories spiraled from there. Some researchers, like Dr. John Brandenburg, proposed it could be a cloaked craft, briefly deactivating its camouflage due to some malfunction or energy fluctuation. Others pointed to the crater's proximity to several magnetic anomalies, suggesting the structure might be some kind of energy conduit, temporarily made visible by lunar environmental shifts. Then there's the wild card, Apollo 12 astronaut Al Worden's cryptic admission years later that the crew had spotted things we couldn't explain near Lobachevsky, though he stopped short of confirming this particular incident. What makes the shining structure so unnerving isn't just its presence, it's the implication of its absence. Natural geologic features don't evaporate between orbital passes. If it were a trick of light, why hasn't it reappeared under similar solar angles in decades of subsequent imaging? And if it was something more, something artificial, what does its disappearance say about the Moon's ability to hide its secrets in plain sight? For a single, shimmering moment, we caught a glimpse of something we still can't explain, a reminder that even in the harsh, airless clarity of space, some mysteries refuse to stay in focus. Long before space probes and high-resolution cameras turned their lenses toward the Moon, astronomers were already documenting phenomena that defied explanation. One of the most perplexing early accounts comes from the renowned British astronomer Sir William Herschel in 1867. Herschel, already celebrated for discovering Uranus, reported something extraordinary through his telescope, a luminous, undulating line moving steadily across the lunar surface, which he described as a lunar wave. This glowing seemed stretched for miles, pulsing with an eerie, rhythmic brightness as it traversed the Mare Serenitatis basin. Herschel meticulously recorded its speed, estimating it covered nearly 12 miles in under an hour, a pace that ruled out meteor showers or cosmic debris. His notes even speculated that the wave might be some form of atmospheric phenomenon, though he knew full well the Moon had no appreciable atmosphere. Modern astronomers now classify Herschel's observation under a broader umbrella, Transient Lunar Phenomena, or TLP. These fleeting flashes, glows, and moving lights have been witnessed by hundreds of credible observers over centuries, from medieval monks to Apollo astronauts. Some TLPs last seconds, others, like Herschel's wave, persist for hours. The sheer consistency of these reports across different eras and cultures suggests they are more than just observational errors or equipment glitches. But what could possibly cause a glowing line to snake across the Moon's airless, geologically stagnant surface? One leading theory points to electrostatic activity. The Moon's surface, bombarded by solar wind, can build up massive static charges, particularly along fault lines or in regions with unusual mineral compositions. Under the right conditions, these charges might discharge in visible arcs, creating fleeting luminous streaks. Another hypothesis involves trapped gases, pockets of radon or other volatile elements released by moonquakes, which could ignite briefly when exposed to sunlight. Then there's the wild card, triboluminescence, where friction between certain crystalline rocks generates light. If tectonic shifts or meteor impacts crushed subsurface minerals, the resulting glow might appear as a moving line from Earth's vantage point. But Herschel's wave stands apart from typical TLPs. Most recorded flashes are sporadic bursts, not deliberate directional movements. The wave's apparent coordination, maintaining a steady path and speed, raises unsettling questions. Could it have been something more structured, like an energy discharge along an artificial conduit, or evidence of subsurface machinery, as some fringe theorists suggest? Even mainstream scientists admit the Moon holds mysteries we've yet to unravel. Japan's Kaguya orbiter detected strange UV emissions in the same region Herschel observed, while recent studies confirm that certain lunar areas still emit unexplained bursts of electrons. Perhaps the most tantalizing clue comes from the Apollo era. Declassified memos reveal that astronauts training for lunar landings were briefed on TLPs, with some like Apollo 11's Buzz Aldrin reporting anomalous lights during their missions. Whether Herschel witnessed an exotic natural process or something far more enigmatic, his lunar wave remains a beacon of curiosity. It challenges us to question not just what we see on the Moon today, but what centuries of observers might have glimpsed, and whether those flickers in the darkness were ever natural to begin with. In the 1950s, when humanity was just beginning to reach for the stars, some of Earth's most respected astronomers were already documenting something extraordinary: fleets of lights moving across the Moon's surface with impossible precision. Among them was Dr. Morris Jessup, the astrophysicist whose work on antigravity and UFO phenomena would later become the stuff of legend. But it wasn't just fringe theorists noticing these anomalies. Even mainstream astronomers like Hugh Percy Wilkins, famed for his meticulous lunar maps, recorded formations of glowing objects traversing the Moon's craters in tight, synchronized patterns. These weren't random flashes, these were structured movements, as if under intelligent control. The most startling account comes from July 1954, when a group of astronomers at the Pic du Midi Observatory in France tracked a dozen luminous objects arranged in a perfect V formation over the Moon's Mare Imbrium. The objects maintained their positions relative to one another, moving at a steady speed before vanishing abruptly. What sets this sighting apart is the sheer number of witnesses, professionals with calibrated instruments, all confirming the same impossible details. Jessup, in his controversial book The Case for the UFO, argued these weren't meteor showers or reflections. Their formation flying defied natural explanations, behaving more like a reconnaissance patrol than celestial debris. Decades later, declassified documents from Project Moon Duster, a U.S. Air Force initiative to track unidentified aerospace threats, added fuel to the fire. Reports from the late 1950s reference lunar origin luminous phenomena, with flight characteristics matching no known human technology of the era. One memo, previously classified as secret, describes radar returns from objects near the Moon's limb that executed sudden 90-degree turns at velocities impossible for conventional spacecraft. Even more intriguing, several of these reports correlate with Wilkins and Jessup's observations, suggesting whatever they witnessed wasn't isolated, it was ongoing. Skeptics, of course, have their explanations. Some propose these were secret military tests, remnants of Cold War black projects launched into high orbit. Others point to electrostatic plasma discharges or high-energy particles interacting with the lunar surface, but none of these theories fully account for the coordinated movements, the structured formations, or the fact that similar sightings persist to this day. Modern lunar orbiters have occasionally captured unexplained streaks of light moving in tandem, though NASA typically dismisses them as cosmic noise or instrumentation glitches. The lingering question isn't just what these fleets were, it's why they seemed so focused on the Moon. Ancient astronaut theorists speculate these could be monitoring systems left behind by an advanced civilization to observe Earth's development. Others suggest the Moon itself might be a kind of way station, a neutral zone for activities beyond our understanding. Whatever the truth, the consistency of these reports spanning continents, decades, and even centuries hints that we're not just dealing with optical illusions or classified experiments. We're staring at a pattern, one that refuses to fade into the darkness, and until we uncover what's really behind these lunar fleets, they'll remain one of the most compelling clues that we're not alone in this cosmic neighborhood. In the vast, empty stretches near the Moon's Messier crater, something stands defiant against the barren landscape, a towering 60-meter slab so unnervingly geometric, it feels ripped straight from the pages of science fiction. Japan's Kaguya orbiter caught the first high-resolution images of this structure in 2009, and the resemblance to Arthur C. Clarke's legendary monolith from 2001, A Space Odyssey, was impossible to ignore. Rising like a skyscraper from the lunar dust, its sheer faces catch the sunlight with surgical precision, casting shadows so sharp they look like cuts in the terrain. But unlike Clarke's fictional artifact, this monolith is very real, and its origins are anything but clear. Mainstream planetary scientists argue it's likely ejecta, debris hurled from a meteor impact, frozen mid-tumble into a freakishly upright position. But that explanation hits a snag when you examine the details. The monolith's base is pristine, showing no signs of the upheaval you'd expect from a violently ejected boulder. Then there's the composition. Spectral analysis suggests it's denser and more reflective than the surrounding basalt, almost as if made from a different material entirely. Some researchers, like Dr. Kazuya Yoshida of Japan's Tohoku University, have pointed out that its angularity defies the natural fracturing patterns of lunar rock. Impact debris tends to shatter chaotically, leaving rough, uneven edges not near perfect right angles. The location only deepens the intrigue. Messier crater itself is already an outlier, with an elongated, almost bullet-like shape that suggests a low-angle impact. If the monolith is ejecta, why is it the only such structure in the vicinity? And why does it stand so perfectly aligned, as if placed deliberately? Ancient astronaut theorists seize on these inconsistencies, proposing it could be a marker, or even a remnant of some long-lost lunar infrastructure. Others, more cautiously, suggest it might be a rare example of a volcanic dike, where molten rock once forced its way into a fissure and solidified. But even that theory struggles to account for the monolith's stark isolation and eerie symmetry. Then there's the cultural ripple effect. Since Kaguya's discovery, the monolith has become a lodestone for speculation, drawing comparisons not just to Clarke's work, but to real-world anomalies like the Martian face photographed by Viking 1. The human mind craves patterns, yes, but when the cosmos serves up something this uncannily precise, it's worth asking whether we're seeing a cosmic coincidence or a whisper of design. Whether it's a geological fluke or something more profound, the Messier monolith stands as a silent sentinel, challenging us to reconsider just how much we don't know about the moon's hidden story. And as long as it casts that razor-straight shadow across the dust, the question lingers: if this is nature's handiwork, why does it feel so much like a message? No celestial anomaly captures our imagination quite like the myth of the lunar face, a vast, eerily human-like visage that supposedly stares back at us from the moon's surface. First sensationalized in 1976 when NASA Viking 1 orbiter photographed the Cydonia region on Mars, the idea of a face carved into extraterrestrial terrain seeped into lunar lore too. Conspiracy theorists began scouring Apollo mission photos, claiming to find similar features in the moon's rugged landscape, particularly near the craters Paracelsus and Euclid. Grainy images seemed to show hollow eyes, a pronounced nose, and even a faintly grinning mouth, sparking feverish speculation about ancient lunar civilizations leaving monuments behind. But here's the twist: high-resolution scans from modern orbiters like LRO have since debunked the lunar face as a textbook case of pareidolia, the psychological phenomenon where our brains impose familiar patterns like faces onto random shapes. The same mental wiring that makes us see dragons in clouds or the Virgin Mary in toast runs wild when we stare at the moon's shadowed craters, zoom in, and the face dissolves into unremarkable ridges and debris. Yet despite the evidence, the myth endures. Why? Because pareidolia isn't just a glitch, it's a survival mechanism. Our ancestors relied on spotting faces in the bushes to detect predators or allies, embedding the instinct deep in our DNA. Culturally, the lunar face taps into something even older: archetypes. Across civilizations, humanity has projected its myths onto the heavens. The man in the moon appears in folklore from Mesoamerica to medieval Europe, often as a deity, trickster, or tragic figure banished to the sky. Even today, viral moon face photos resurface online every few years, proof that our longing for cosmic companionship overpowers cold, pixelated reality. The irony: in trying to humanize the moon, we overlook its genuine mysteries like the unnatural spires or magnetic swirls we've discussed. The lunar face isn't evidence of alien architects. It's evidence of us, a reflection of how desperately we crave meaning in the void, even when the cosmos offers none. So the next time you glance up and swear you see a face smiling back, remember, the real enigma isn't carved in lunar rock. It's etched into the architecture of the human mind, where wonder and logic wage their eternal war. Beneath the moon's cratered surface lies a hidden world of tunnels, enormous, winding passageways carved by ancient rivers of lava. NASA has confirmed their existence, with some tubes stretching for miles and soaring hundreds of feet tall, large enough to swallow entire city blocks. These subterranean labyrinths could one day shelter astronauts from radiation and micrometeorites, but nestled among these natural formations are features that don't quite fit the geological script: strange, perfectly circular shafts dubbed skylights, piercing the lunar crust like boreholes drilled by some unseen hand. The most infamous of these sits in the Marius Hills region, a yawning pit over 300 feet wide with edges so crisp they look machined. High-resolution images from Japan's Selene orbiter reveal vertical walls plunging straight down into darkness, untouched by the slumping or debris you'd expect from a collapse. Even more baffling, Thermal scans show the interior maintaining a constant temperature, shielded from the moon's extreme surface swings, behavior inconsistent with an empty lava tube. Dr. Robert Wagner of Arizona State University, who helped catalog these pits, admits their precision is difficult to explain through normal geologic processes. Some researchers suggest they could be sinkholes formed when sealing rock gave way, but sinkholes on Earth are rarely this symmetrical, and they don't typically open into vast, cavernous networks. Then there's the placement. Several skylights cluster near the moon's magnetic anomalies, including the Rhener gamma swirl we discussed earlier. Others align with surface hotspots detected by India's Chandrayaan orbiter, areas emitting unexplained thermal pulses. Ancient astronaut theorists like Giorgio Tsoukalos argue these could be access points to underground complexes, perhaps even remnants of an abandoned lunar infrastructure. Even mainstream scientists concede the possibility of chambers beneath, with some proposing the skylights might lead to ice reservoirs shielded from solar radiation. But the most tantalizing clue comes from LRO's laser altimeter data, which mapped subtle gravitational fluctuations around certain pits. The readings hint at vast open spaces beneath, some large enough to house small towns. When Apollo astronauts reported hearing strange music over their headsets while orbiting the moon, a phenomenon NASA later attributed to radio interference, few considered whether the signals might have originated from below the surface. Could these skylights be ventilation shafts for something deeper, or merely the moon's way of teasing us with another layer of mystery? For now, the tunnels remain unexplored, their shadows stretching beyond the reach of our cameras and curiosity. But one thing's certain, if humanity ever establishes a lunar colony, these gaps in the ground won't just be geological curiosities, they'll be doors. And what we find behind them could rewrite everything we think we know about our silent celestial neighbor. During the historic Apollo 11 mission, as the lunar module descended toward the Sea of Tranquility, Buzz Aldrin's voice crackled over the radio with a tension engineers hadn't anticipated. "There's something out there," he reported, describing a series of bright, stationary lights near their landing site that looked like glowing Christmas tree bulbs. Neil Armstrong, typically reserved, confirmed the sighting. Unidentified luminous objects hovering just beyond the crater rim. NASA would later dismiss them as reflections or instrument glare, but the astronauts knew what they saw. These weren't mere camera artifacts, they were lights with purpose, arranged, watchful, and utterly unexplainable. Decades later, these astronaut accounts gained eerie corroboration. Modern lunar reconnaissance orbiter footage has captured similar phenomena, fleeting dots gliding across the moon's surface in formation, their movements too controlled for meteorites or cosmic debris. One sequence, filmed over the Aristarchus Plateau, shows a cluster of lights executing synchronized 90-degree turns before vanishing into the shadows. Another, near the crater Tycho, reveals a single pinpoint darting erratically, accelerating to impossible speeds without the explosive tail of a meteor impact. Skeptics argue these could be high-energy particles striking the orbiter's sensors, but the patterns persist across multiple flybys, ruling out random noise. The natural explanations strain under scrutiny. Meteors, the usual suspects, streak across the sky in fiery, linear paths. They don't hover, change direction, or cluster in geometric arrangements. Solar-wind interactions might produce brief auroral flickers, but not the sustained, coordinated displays astronauts and orbiters have documented. Even moonquakes, which can theoretically release trapped gases that ignite momentarily, fail to account for the luminosity's duration and intelligence-like motion. This leaves the unsettling alternative: surveillance. Ancient astronaut theorists point to the light's recurrence near sites of other anomalies, the Shard, the Sinus Medii grids, as evidence of an observational network, perhaps monitoring human activity or maintaining some long-dormant lunar operation. Declassified documents from the Pentagon's UAP task force lend inadvertent support, with one report acknowledging fastwalkers, unidentified objects tracked near the moon exhibiting propulsion beyond known technology. Perhaps the most chilling detail lies in the timing. Many astronaut sightings occurred during critical mission phases, landings, orbital adjustments, as if whatever's up there takes special interest in our intrusions. Whether it's alien curiosity, territorial monitoring, or something beyond our comprehension, the moving lights suggest one terrifying possibility: we're not the only ones watching the moon. And whatever's watching back has been doing so for a very, very long time. Among the moon's many enigmas, few are as visually striking or as hotly debated as the so-called glass structures photographed during the Apollo 14 mission. Nestled near the Fra Mauro Highlands, these peculiar formations appear almost otherworldly, smooth, dome-like protrusions with a faint translucency, as if molded from blown glass and left to harden under the lunar sun. In some frames, sunlight passes through them, casting refracted glows onto the surrounding regolith, a phenomenon never observed with ordinary lunar rock. Dr. Farouk El-Baz, the legendary geologist who trained Apollo astronauts in lunar geology, proposed a scientific explanation. He theorized these could be remnants of lunar glass, formed by violent meteor impacts melting silica-rich surface material into vast sheets that later cooled into natural vitreous structures. Similar formations exist on Earth, like Libya's Great Sand Sea Glass molten silica scattered by ancient asteroid strikes. But there's a catch. Natural impact glass tends to be chaotic, littered with bubbles and fractures. The Apollo 14 domes, by contrast, show eerie uniformity, their curves too symmetrical, their surfaces too smooth. Some even exhibit what look like internal lattice patterns, geometric reinforcements reminiscent of man-made crystalline composites. This is where the theories diverge wildly. Independent researchers analyzing the images point to the dome's clustered placement, noting they often appear near other anomalies like the Tycho Pyramid and Sinus Medii grids. Their reflectivity also defies expectations. Under certain angles, the glass-like material doesn't just scatter light, it amplifies it, creating localized bright spots that some argue resemble energy dispersion patterns. Ancient astronaut theorists like Richard Hoagland have gone further, suggesting these could be pressurized habitats or even observation domes, their crystalline structure designed to harness solar energy or shield occupants from radiation. Mainstream science remains skeptical, attributing the anomalies to pareidolia and photographic artifacts, yet even NASA's own archives hold curiosities. Apollo mission transcripts reveal astronauts describing glittering patches and ice-like sheets in regions later confirmed to have no water ice. Japan's Selene orbiter also detected unusual reflective properties in these areas, with spectral signatures that don't match pure silica glass. The most tantalizing clue: similar structures have been spotted elsewhere. China's Chang missions photographed analogous formations near the moon's far side, reigniting debates. If these are natural, why do they appear in isolated clusters, often near geometric anomalies? And if they're not, what purpose could they have served? Whether they're cosmic stained glass or something far more deliberate, one thing's certain: the moon's mysteries aren't just buried in its dust. Some are right on the surface, glinting back at us, waiting for the light to hit them just right. In October 1968, the Soviet Union's Zond 6 mission captured something extraordinary as it looped around the moon, a single grainy photograph that would ignite decades of speculation. There, hovering just above the desolate lunar surface, was a distinct disc-shaped object, its metallic sheen stark against the cratered backdrop. Unlike the random lens flares or camera artifacts that often plague space photography, this anomaly held its shape and position across multiple frames, appearing to hang motionless as the probe flew by. The Soviets, tight-lipped as ever, dismissed it as a technical irregularity, but whispers among cosmonauts and mission specialists told a different story. Rumors persisted that Zond 6 hadn't just spotted a random object, it had stumbled across something placed there. Declassified documents from the Soviet space program later hinted at internal debates over what they called lunar mechanized phenomena, with some cosmonauts reportedly briefed on the possibility of encountering non-natural structures during missions. One particularly chilling account, leaked by a retired Baikonur technician, described a classified debriefing where Zond's imagery was analyzed alongside earlier lunar probe data. According to the source, the disk wasn't alone. It matched patterns from other sightings, objects clustered in specific regions, often near geometric surface anomalies like the Tycho Pyramid or the Sinus Medii grids we've already discussed. The implications are staggering. If the disk was artificial, who or what left it there? Ancient astronaut theorists point to its uncanny resemblance to terrestrial UAVs, suggesting it could be a drone, either of extraterrestrial origin or remnants of some pre-human lunar civilization. Skeptics counter that it was likely a piece of debris from an earlier Soviet or American mission, though records show no probes or landers were active in that region at the time. Even more puzzling, the disk's location hovering near Mare Fecunditatis, a basin riddled with magnetic anomalies and the same strange hotspots detected by India's Chandrayaan orbiter. Then there's the timing. Zond 6's flyby occurred just months before Apollo 8's historic lunar orbit, raising uncomfortable questions. Did the Soviets know something NASA didn't? Were both superpowers racing not just to plant flags, but to uncover or conceal what was already up there? The photo itself remains locked in Russian archives, but the few analysts who have seen high-resolution copies note eerie details, faint angular markings on the disk's surface, and a shadow pattern suggesting it wasn't resting on the ground but suspended, as if by some invisible force. Whether it was a discarded prototype, a trick of light, or something far more profound, the Zond 6 disk forces us to confront a haunting possibility. The moon's mysteries might not all be ancient. Some could be watching, waiting, and if the rumors are true, still very much operational. And if that's the case, every mission we've sent from Apollo to Artemis may have been observed by something we're only beginning to glimpse. Among the moon's countless impact sites, one stands out not for its size or depth, but for its impossible geometry, a near-perfect hexagonal crater etched into the rugged terrain near Mare Orientale. Unlike the typical bowl-shaped depressions left by meteor strikes, this six-sided anomaly looks as if it were carved with cosmic precision, its razor-straight edges intersecting at uniform 120-degree angles. Such mathematical perfection defies everything we know about cosmic collisions. Asteroids don't strike celestial bodies with scissors, they hit like wrecking balls, leaving chaotic, circular wounds. So what could have created this freakish polygon on the lunar surface? Mainstream planetary scientists offer two competing theories. The first points to a rare volcanic phenomenon. On Earth, hexagonal formations sometimes emerge from cooling basalt, like the Giant's Causeway in Northern Ireland. Perhaps, they argue, an ancient lunar magma chamber collapsed in just the right conditions to create this shape. But there's a glaring flaw. The moon's volcanic activity typically leaves behind smooth domes or sinuous rills, not angular sinkholes. The second theory suggests an oblique impact where a meteor struck at such a shallow angle that it skipped across the surface, creating a faceted cavity. Yet computer simulations show even grazing impacts produce elongated ovals or teardrop shapes, never crisp hexagons. This is where fringe theories gain traction. Some researchers, like plasma physicist Dr. John Brandenburg, propose an even wilder explanation: directed energy. Certain high-energy weapons tests on Earth, like pulsed laser strikes, can vaporize material into geometric patterns. Could the hexagonal crater be the scar of an ancient energy weapon, unleashed during some forgotten cosmic conflict? Others speculate it might be a structural remnant, the collapsed roof of a vast hexagonal chamber beneath the surface. China's Chang missions detected unusual gravity fluctuations in this region, hinting at subsurface voids. The crater's location only deepens the intrigue. Mare Orientale itself is one of the solar system's most spectacular impact basins, with concentric rings resembling a bullseye, almost as if something targeted this region deliberately. Nearby, the Lunar Reconnaissance Orbiter spotted strange, reflective patches that align with the hexagon's angles, as if marking invisible boundaries extending beyond the crater rim. Whether it's a geological oddity or something more sinister, the hexagonal crater challenges our most basic assumptions about the Moon's violent past. If nature alone created this shape, it would be a 1 in a billion fluke, but if it's not natural, then what or who drew this celestial polygon on the lunar canvas? The answer might rewrite not just lunar history, but the story of our entire solar system. Few theories about the Moon push the boundaries of plausibility and skepticism quite like the audacious claim that our celestial neighbor isn't a natural world at all, but an artificial construct cloaked in illusion. Proponents of the lunar hologram hypothesis argue the Moon's surface is a projection, masking a hollow interior that could house anything from ancient alien machinery to an entire hidden civilization. While this might sound like the plot of a sci-fi thriller, some of the Moon's most perplexing anomalies lend eerie, if circumstantial, support to this radical idea. Start with the Apollo mission's seismic experiments. When astronauts deliberately crashed lunar modules into the surface, scientists expected the Moon to react like a solid celestial body, sharp tremors followed by a quick decay. Instead, the vibrations lasted far longer than anticipated, with some echoes reverberating for over an hour. Dr. Maurice Ewing, a leading geophysicist on the project, famously admitted the Moon rang like a bell, a behavior more consistent with a hollow sphere than a dense, rocky world. Skeptics counter that fractured lunar crust or low-density magma chambers could explain the phenomenon, but even they struggle to account for the sheer duration and uniformity of the echoes. Then there's the Moon's gravitational field, or rather, its baffling inconsistencies. Areas like the Mare Crisium exhibit unexpected mass concentrations, or mascons, where gravity spikes inexplicably, as if dense artificial structures lurk beneath the surface. Meanwhile, other regions display gravitational voids, pockets where probes in orbit dip slightly, as if passing over hollow cavities. NASA's Grail mission mapped these anomalies in detail, revealing patterns that don't align with natural geology. Hologram theorists point to these irregularities as evidence of a manufactured shell, its inner framework distorting the projected exterior we see from Earth. Even the Moon's appearance raises questions. High-resolution images occasionally capture transient glitches, brief distortions in the terrain like a screen flickering. During the Apollo 16 mission, astronauts reported a strange, wavering effect near the Descartes Highlands, as if the landscape itself was unstable. Modern lunar orbiters have documented similar anomalies, with patches of the surface appearing momentarily out of focus or warped before snapping back to normal. Mainstream science chalks this up to thermal distortion or camera artifacts, but hologram advocates argue it's the projection briefly faltering, offering glimpses of the Moon's true nature. The most chilling evidence, though, might come from an entirely unexpected source: ancient human accounts. Indigenous cultures from the Cherokee to the Zulu speak of a time before the Moon existed in the sky, with oral histories describing its arrival as a catastrophic event. Greek philosophers like Aristotle and Plutarch wrote of an ancient people called the Proslenes, who claimed to remember a world without the Moon. Could these stories hint at an artificial satellite placed in orbit long after Earth's formation? Or are we projecting our own sci-fi fantasies onto the gaps in scientific understanding? Whether the Moon is a hologram, a hollow arc, or simply a geological oddball, one thing remains clear: its mysteries are far from solved, and until we crack its secrets, the theory, no matter how outlandish, will linger in the shadows, whispering that the cosmos might be stranger than we've dared to imagine. During the Apollo 16 mission, as astronauts explored the rugged Descartes highlands, they snapped 2 photographs of the same patch of lunar soil, images separated by mere minutes. The first frame showed an unremarkable rock roughly the size of a football resting plainly on the surface, but in the second photo the rock was gone. Not rolled away, not crushed underfoot, just vanished without a trace. This wasn't some distant boulder lost in the grainy backdrop. It was front and center, unmistakably present in one shot and conspicuously absent in the next. NASA official explanation pointed to a camera malfunction or a trick of lighting, but the astronauts knew better. That rock hadn't been a glitch, it had been there. So where did it go? Theories abound, ranging from the mundane to the utterly mind-bending. On the technical side, skeptics argue the disappearance was just a quirk of perspective. Lunar terrain, devoid of atmospheric haze, plays havoc with depth perception. Maybe the rock was never in the first photo to begin with, just a shadow or a smudge misinterpreted by overeager analysts. Others suggest the astronauts themselves might have accidentally kicked it, sending it tumbling out of frame, but that's where the physics gets sticky. The moon's low gravity means disturbances linger. A kicked rock wouldn't just vanish, it would leave a trail of dust or a fresh impact mark. Yet the soil around the missing rock's former spot looked undisturbed, as if the thing had been plucked straight off the surface. Then there's the wild card tampering. Conspiracy theorists have long whispered that Apollo crews weren't alone on the moon, that something, or someone, was observing, even interacting with their equipment. Could the rock have been moved deliberately? Ancient astronaut proponents point to similar anomalies in other missions, like Apollo 12's shining structure, as evidence of an active, intelligent presence. Even some former NASA engineers, speaking off the record, have admitted the vanishing rock defies easy explanation. One anonymous technician once mused that the photos looked less like a malfunction and more like something reached in and took it. But perhaps the most unsettling detail isn't the rock's disappearance, it's the reaction. Mission transcripts reveal a noticeable gap in communication right after the second photo was taken, as if the crew were abruptly redirected. Later, when asked about the incident, astronaut Charlie Duke gave a curiously evasive answer, calling it just one of those lunar mysteries. Whether it was a camera quirk, an overlooked physical disturbance, or something far stranger, the Apollo 16 mystery rock remains a glaring question mark in the lunar record. And its absence lingers like a ghost, reminding us that even in the stark, airless clarity of space, some things refuse to stay where we put them. The far side of the moon has always been a realm of speculation, shielded from Earth's prying eyes by the simple fact it never turns toward us. But in December 2021, China's Yutu-2 rover shattered that silence with a discovery that sent shockwaves through the scientific community. Rolling across the barren expanse of Von Karman crater, its cameras captured something bizarre: a cluster of cube-shaped structures perched on the horizon, their stark geometry standing out against the moon's chaotic terrain. The Chinese National Space Administration, or CNSA, quickly downplayed the find, labeling them as rocky outcrops distorted by shadows and distance. But when independent researchers got their hands on the pixel data, a different picture emerged, one that challenges everything we assume about the moon's untouched wilderness. The controversy hinges on 2 irreconcilable interpretations. On one side, planetary geologists argue the huts, as internet sleuths dub them, are nothing more than boulders fractured by millennia of meteor impacts, their blocky shapes the result of natural cleavage planes in lunar basalt. But when digital imaging experts like Dr. Neil Evans enhanced the rover's footage, they uncovered details that defy this explanation. The structure's edges didn't just suggest right angles, They measured within fractions of a degree of perfect 90-degree intersections, a statistical improbability for random geology. Even more puzzling, the huts appeared grouped in a deliberate formation, some aligned in straight rows, others positioned at measured intervals like units in a modular outpost. Then there's the matter of reflectivity. Lunar rocks scatter sunlight diffusely, their surfaces pitted and porous from eons of cosmic weathering. Yet the cube-like objects gleamed with a consistency closer to polished metal or glass, their faces bouncing light back at the rover's camera with unnatural uniformity. Some analysts even claim to spot repeating patterns on their surfaces, grid-like markings that, if verified, would rule out any known natural process. CNSA follow-up images taken weeks later as U-22 inched closer did little to settle the debate. The objects remained stubbornly geometric, their details blurred not by distance, but by what some suspect was intentional image compression. The location adds another layer of intrigue. Von Karman crater sits atop the Moon's largest known mass concentration, a gravitational anomaly so intense it alters the orbits of passing satellites. It's also riddled with magnetic disturbances and the same strange swirl patterns we've seen elsewhere, hinting at forces beneath the surface we don't yet understand. Could these cubes be related? Ancient astronaut theorists argue they're the remnants of some long-abandoned lunar base, perhaps built to harness the crater's peculiar energies. Others propose they're natural formations warped by an unseen technology, crystalline structures grown or molded by advanced engineering. What's undeniable is that U-22 didn't just stumble upon a curiosity. It revealed a riddle wrapped in lunar dust, one that forces us to ask, if these are just rocks, why do they break so many rules of geology? And if they're not, why is only one rover, on the side of the Moon we can't see, finding them? Until we get closer, the huts of Von Karman will remain a tantalizing enigma, their true nature locked behind pixels and politics. But one thing's certain, the far side has secrets and it's only beginning to share them. During Apollo 10's lunar orbit in May 1969, astronauts Thomas Stafford, John Young, and Eugene Cernan experienced something so bizarre, NASA kept it classified for decades, an eerie, otherworldly chorus they called outer space music. As their spacecraft slipped behind the Moon, losing contact with Earth, their headsets suddenly crackled with an unearthly sound, a rhythmic, whistling tone, oscillating between high and low frequencies like a theremin being played in a vacuum. For nearly an hour, the crew debated whether to report it to mission control, fearing they'd be labeled unstable. Cernan later described it as music you'd hear in a sci-fi film, a sound that clearly wasn't random static but something structured, almost intelligent. Scientists later dismissed the phenomenon as radio interference between spacecraft, but that explanation crumbles under scrutiny. The whistles followed a distinct pattern, rising and falling in sequences that mirrored plasma wave behavior. Yet the Moon lacks both an atmosphere and a magnetic field to generate such emissions naturally. Plasma physicist Dr. Donald Gurnett, who studied similar chorus waves around Earth and Jupiter, admitted the Moon's environment shouldn't produce these sounds without an external energy source. So where did they come from? One theory points to the lunar surface itself. In 2009, Japan's Kaguya orbiter detected strange, fluctuating electric fields near the Moon's magnetic anomalies, the same regions where Apollo missions recorded unexplained lights and the Rayner Gamma swirls pulse with mysterious energy. Could these electromagnetic disturbances be generating the eerie sounds? Ancient astronaut theorists take it further, suggesting the music might be a byproduct of dormant lunar technology, perhaps subsurface machinery emitting signals as it interacts with solar winds. Even more chilling, similar radio frequency whistles were recorded by Soviet lunar probes in the 1970s, always when passing over specific basins like Mare Crisium, home to the vanishing lunar bridge and the shining structure. The consistency hints at something more than coincidence, a deliberate or at least predictable phenomenon tied to locations already steeped in mystery. Whether it's the moon's hidden geology singing through plasma or something far more unnerving, Apollo 10's encounter forces us to confront an unsettling truth. Space isn't silent, and sometimes in the void between worlds it hums a tune we're only beginning to hear. From towering monoliths to synchronized fleets of lights, vanishing rocks to eerie lunar music, these 25 anomalies force us to confront a startling possibility that the moon, our silent celestial companion, might be far more than a lifeless rock. Each of these mysteries peels back another layer of the official narrative, revealing cracks where science ends and speculation begins, the shard's unnatural angles. The Blair cuspid's metallic sheen, the sinus medii grids that mirror urban planning. Taken individually, they might be dismissed as tricks of light or quirks of geology. But together, they form a mosaic that challenges everything we think we know. Is it pareidolia, our minds grasping for meaning in random shapes, or could these patterns hint at something more deliberate? The laws of physics and probability suggest that so many anomalies clustered in one place strains coincidence to its breaking point. Yet Occam's razor reminds us that the simplest explanation, flawed data, optical illusions, or our own cognitive biases, often holds true. But here's the catch: science thrives on questioning, not complacency. Every paradigm shift in history began with someone daring to ask, what if we're wrong? So where does that leave us? Perhaps the truth lies somewhere between the extremes. Maybe the moon isn't an alien outpost or a hollow hologram, but a world still hiding geological wonders we've yet to understand. Or maybe, just maybe, it's been a silent witness to forces beyond our imagination, its scars and structures whispering secrets we're only beginning to decode. This isn't about replacing facts with fantasies. It's about curiosity, about looking up at that familiar silver disk and wondering what stories it hasn't told us yet. Because if there's one thing these anomalies prove, it's that the universe hates a boring story. Now it's your turn. What's your take? Natural wonders. Cosmic artifacts, something even wilder. Drop your theories below, and if you're hungry for more mysteries, hit like and subscribe. Next stop, Mars. Because if the moon's hiding this much strangeness, just wait until we explore the red planet's enigmas. The truth is out there. Let's find it together.